Hi and welcome to another LRCC Soundbite. If you've read the title of this soundbite, you'll already have in your head the same thing that's in my head at the moment, the great Bobby McFerrin song, Don't Worry, Be Happy. This week, Jesus is getting in early with that very same idea. He has some words to try and make us feel better, but some things aren't as easy as that. Jesus told his friends, don't worry about your life, about having things to eat or having things to wear. Life is so much more than just those things. But how can that work? Because life is complex, the world is busy, we have things we need to do. How can we just sit back and relax? Jesus gave some examples. He said, look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest. They don't have stores or barns, but still, God takes care of them. And aren't you much more important than birds? Okay, so far Jesus is still saying not to plan ahead, not to be concerned with where our next meal might come from. What were the next things he said? He said, can worry make you live longer? Good question. Actually, I understand that medical evidence would suggest that people who are full of worry and stress don't live as long as those who are more relaxed. So this seems like good advice from Jesus. He then goes on to say that there really isn't any point worrying about things you have no power to influence. Well, that makes sense in some ways as well. However, let's take the way the fuel prices rose. We have no power to influence it, but I'm sure I wouldn't be alone in worrying about rising fuel prices when that happens, but not just for myself, but for people wider in our community who are already struggling, and they really don't need higher prices. Maybe we get a better clue as to what Jesus is getting at by the next thing that he said. He said, God knows what you need. So put God's work first and these things. These things, by that he meant like having your food and drink and those things. These things, he says, will be yours as well. Okay, so I wonder if there's a few things that we can unpack from that. I think there's probably three main things that he's trying to get at. First, if you're worried about something, tell God and ask him to help. Even when we're in the middle of loads of stuff, believe it or not, God can give you peace and help take some of that worry away. A problem shared is a problem halved, as they say. Second one, if you're doing something that God is directing you to do, he'll make sure that everything you need is always there. You might not know where the next meal is coming from, but you won't starve. Because if you're where God wants you to be, he will never abandon you. The third thing, I think, is God wants us to have him at the centre of our lives, not to be consumed by trying to get money or possessions or other stuff that gives us this self-security that we've built for ourselves. God's answer is that there's only true security when we know him and ask him to help us. So, do I still worry? Yes. Sometimes I think I probably worry needlessly about things I can't change. But I can tell you that when I remember to just talk to God about that, I get peace from him. A peace that doesn't make sense and yet is tangibly there. I'd be really happy to talk to you more about what it means to have God help you in that sort of way in your life. You can always get in touch with me, or anything else that strikes a chord with you about something I've said in these sound bites. I hope you have a worry and stress-free week. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.